This episode of Club v County is brought to you by StatSport. As the old saying goes, what gets measured gets managed. If you're someone looking to improve top speed, you want to improve your high distance running during games, improve the distance you're running during games, StatSport GPS Vest can show you this data, amongst other things then as well. Of course, only buying the vest isn't going to get you faster and fitter. You are going to have to put the work in, but with the vest you can track the speed you're hitting over time, track the distance you're hitting over games across the season, or even if it is a case you're looking at your heart rate monitor, there's one of those then as well. If you're looking for some money off your order, code GADS15 will get you a bit of a discount. Now, on to the episode. What is the crack, everyone? Welcome to episode 5 of Club versus County, where I'm in beautiful Ballina with Mayo defender Padraig O'Hora. Padraig, how are you keeping?
What's the crack? Keeping well.
How is your summer been going? How's the club championship going for you?
Not bad. We're sipping away lovely. We didn't get much of a summer now, but we're getting a bit of sunshine now. Brought it down from Roscommon with you. We don't usually let lads in from Roscommon, but sure luck.
I do have a bit of a, I wouldn't say love-hate relationship with Mayo. It's more of a hate on my side, but I think I do respect a lot of things about Mayo. It's just a fan. Sometimes I think when you're losing, you take it the wrong way.
We do like to let you know about it. Sure luck.
I suppose just the main thing of this series is the differences between playing club versus playing your county. And just in your own words, what would you say is the biggest difference between playing with Mayo versus playing with Ballina?
I think definitely Mayo, and I assume probably the same around the country, is the intercounty setup has just become so professional, so demanding. The requirements have just continued to increase, I suppose, and it can be challenging, especially with other sides of life when you're working full time. Maybe you have a family, maybe you have other different bits and pieces going on. Lads in certain times in college when they've got a heavy workload, so it can be very tricky to kind of navigate all that together. I think with club, although the expectations have increased too, there's still, I think, a bit more space for enjoyment and a little bit of freedom and stuff. So yeah, probably the biggest differences for me.
And even with the club, you're a similar age now to myself. What's the biggest differences you've seen from when you kind of first broke onto the senior team to the way it is now in 2024?
Probably the strength and conditioning, I'd say. Like the lads coming in at like 18, 19 are already well built, athletic, strong. They're torturing us afterwards. We didn't look at a gym until maybe, a bench press was all I knew about a gym when I was 16 or 17. Like a lot of these lads are getting that education early, and then they're coming in really strong. So that would be the biggest difference, I think. You've got more developed footballers coming in at a younger age.
And do you find that kind of keeps you interested and keeps you motivated, that you're seeing younger players looking for the same jersey as you, and you're going to say, well, I'm an older player here, I've been here longer, I'm not just done yet? You kind of, that pushes you on a little bit.
In Ballina, anyway, I love to see it, right? We're very, very lucky. We've got a really well-established club. We've got huge numbers. So like our under 8s this year, I think, registered 92 or 93 kids. And then that continues to trickle along, and you lose guys. But we're very fortunate in the sense that, like, every year I think we have like 3 or 4 lads kind of stepping into senior ranks, which most clubs don't have. So it does keep the kind of, maybe the pressure or whatever you want to call it. But certainly for a team trying to be successful, we were successful last year, we're trying to build on that again this year. You need that internal competition. So like, we're very, very fortunate in that sense. Like, there's a lot of lads trying to take your neck off every Wednesday and Friday night.
Yeah, so like, you ask any player, I'm not going to ask it because I kind of hate the question at this stage, like, who's your toughest opponent? 9 times out of 10 people say it's someone inside the own camp. And like, how tough did you find, you broke onto the Mayo team, was in 2020, you played minor when you were younger, and then you took a few years away, you were saying, how much of a battle has it been kind of breaking into that Mayo team from when you were first playing minor? Was it 2011?
It was weird because it wasn't really on my radar. It wasn't like, I didn't have the same maybe direction as most. They'll do minor 21 and then get in and end up playing for Mayo from there. So that didn't really happen for me. I played minor, I played 21. I hate to admit it there, but that's where the disgust for Roscommon comes, because they were unreal at our age. So you're dealing with the likes of Murtha and Tony Smith and them lads, and they were phenomenal. They destroyed us at minor and they destroyed us at under 21. So that's where the hatred definitely grew. But then yeah, I just went away from it. I wasn't overly interested. And then came back, played really well with the club one season, just enjoying football again, and then rocked into Mayo, and it was, tipped away then from there, really.
Yeah, I know how good those Roscommon teams were because they were the teams I was getting dropped from, trying to compete and trying to play in the same place as Donia and Dermot. But I think you said in a previous podcast that you took a sabbatical, as you called it, and you did some jiu-jitsu, you did some kind of solo activities. How important do you think that is for people to kind of, I know it is a team sport and we all want to do well for the team, but having something individual for yourself to kind of say, well, there's a personal achievement for me that I'm very proud of outside of just maybe playing really good in a game?
For me, it was just change, to be honest. It wasn't anything in particular of like, I had boxed and done kickboxing and all of those things. I'd done a lot of individual sport as a young person anyway, growing up. I'd always been doing both, but I just got sick of it really, got bored of the same old thing. Yeah. And for one reason or another, just was like, you know, I need to freshen up here and do something. And you know what, I've seen like, rest can be unbelievable at times. And I do think that's a big part of like, I think a lot of players are getting burnt out because the demands are so much, and then you're flying through intercounty to club and back, huge demands. Whereas like I look at the likes of Ger Cafferty, obviously Ballina, Mayo footballer and an all-star, but this year he stepped away from the panel earlier in the year. Not to completely step away, but he just needed the space for a break. He just needed to give his body, and I think his mind maybe more so, time. Sorry for putting words in your mouth, Ger, but like if you see what he's like now, so he stepped away, gave himself a bit of time, he travelled, he spent time on himself, and then he's playing some of the best football. We played against Westport the last day. It was phenomenal. Like every time he steps on the pitch, he looks like a young version of himself again. He's moving well, he's happy, he's unbelievable around the team. And like sometimes you wonder, is the break kind of what guys need sometimes to just come back with a bit of passion, a bit of bite?
Yeah, 100%. Like I think, as you were saying, these young lads are all been these absolute animals coming through now at 18, 19, and you're kind of thinking maybe 5-6 years down the line, what's going to happen to these lads? Are they going to keep that passion going? And like that, are we going to see an influx of injuries of 26, 27-year-olds of lads stepping away altogether because of the pressures and, you know, this kind of demands of training? They probably want to go up and up and up, and they have obviously families and jobs to think about. It's all well and good, and you're 18, you're in college, and you're having the time of your life, but looking long term, and obviously I'd love to be there, don't get me wrong, I'd love to be in the setups, but I suppose looking at Mayo GAA as a whole, that they are the best fans in the world, and I've openly said that before. I think they are the best fans in the world of any sport, but when things go wrong, they can be sometimes they're the biggest ones giving the critique to their own players. Have you found that because they're so passionate supporters, that when things don't necessarily go away, is there kind of a negative thing around the county, or is that just something that people see from the outside?
No, it happens, right? But the thing is, what happens is you have hundreds and hundreds of really good people, and you have one or two that when the chips are down or whatever and things go wrong, that they do want to slate the players on the pitch or the management or the ref or whatever. And it seems to be that person that cries the loudest, then everybody pays heed to. Like when we lose games, or if I've had a bad day out, and I've had them, not even to pick one out in particular, but like the messages that come through to my phone directly will tell you what the Mayo people are all about. You know, like you will get an awful lot of love and compassion and care pouring in, but it is the one person on Twitter that says something a bit erratic. And do people give abuse? Absolutely, but like I would certainly say in Mayo, it's the 1 in a million kind of, you know, maybe they just get the attention, but most people have your back.
Yeah, and I think that's the same in most clubs. And like if you're looking at maybe a lad who's broke onto a senior team this year, could be, just say, our club for example, a junior club in Roscommon, getting one negative comment for that person might be the same as 10,000 Mayo fans giving you a negative comment. Would you have any tips or any kind of advice for, even if it was your younger self, how to kind of deal with that negative feedback from, like that, it's one gobshite, let's call a spade a spade, it's one gobshite who maybe went to one game all year, sees you had maybe not your best game, has given you abuse, how to kind of look at the whole picture as opposed to just pinpointing in at that moment?
The big one that sticks with me, and I'm not sure where the advice came from exactly, but it definitely worked with me, was like just to read the author and not the words, because like as you said, gobshite, that's kind of what you're dealing with, an idiot or somebody that's in a bad place in their life too. You don't know who's behind the words, but like it doesn't really matter either. Like I'd always say, if I've done something poorly, or I've let myself down or whatever, my friends will tell me, do you know what I mean? My mother will ring me and tell me, do you know, you're a disgrace today or whatever. And the lads will say, you know, you done X and Y wrong or whatever. Those people they care about you and they'll give it to you straight. And you know, if you're getting kind of negative comments from them, you maybe do need to have a little review and see what you done wrong and try and rectify it. But if some fucking idiot on Twitter is writing something about you, it doesn't, like, I would always read the author, and if I don't know who you are and I don't care about you, or if you're on a bloody spam account, what's the point in even reading the words, you know, that kind of way. I wouldn't let any of them comments kind of seep in at all. I couldn't care less what they have to say, to be honest.
It really good what you said there about reviewing the feedback in the first place, because sometimes maybe the way that it was given to you wasn't the best, but they may still have a point that, just say if I miss 10 shots in a row and someone says you're shite at shooting, I'm like, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about. But if that was given to me in a constructive way, that anytime you get the ball at your back to goals and you're kicking it wide, maybe you need to settle down. And even online, I think it's like that, spam accounts and fake accounts, you know, you explosion work with what you're doing in your own personal life and online then as well. But like that, you do get the negative comments and negative feedback, and as you said, you have a love-hate relationship with posting on social media. Sometimes you just don't want to do it, and it's just because it is a funny world and a funny space, and it's very easy to be negative on that. But it is very important, the message you're giving there, that review first before kind of throwing the toys out the pram and saying no, everyone's a gobshite. Do they have a point in the first place? If they don't have a point, then maybe it's like, I'm going to disregard that. But if someone kind of, they said it in a mean way, but they kind of do have a point in taking that on board and growing as a person. Because I know you said before that you've disagreed with something you said yourself a few years ago, but that's your growth mindset that I learned more now in those couple of years. How important was that for you to kind of accept sometimes you are wrong and then kind of learn why you were wrong or what your thought was at that time?
I think you're wrong most of the time. Like, it seems to be the case anyway. Like, you know, and I'm very, very conscious not to end up in bed with your own ideas too and ideologies, because of course we all have our own kind of mindset and we think a certain way, but it is good to be challenged. And certainly when somebody boils your blood at the moment, there's usually a touch of truth in there somewhere, whether you want to hear it or not. It might piss you off altogether, but I think when you do reflect back and you have a good look at your own kind of attitudes, they change drastically, and like, people will come with good advice. It might not come the right way or the way you want it or at the time you want it, but if you take it on board, you know, it does only help really. Like, and yeah, I've disagreed with myself time and time again, and that just continues to happen. But I think that there's a good lesson in that too. Yeah,
100%. And I listened to the podcast out of Brian Keane. I used to work with Brian for a couple of years, and his analogy of it was, if someone called you a purple polar bear, you'd be like, oh, what the fuck is he on about? That's not going to affect me. But like that, if you're getting a little bit, why did he say that about me? If I'm a poor shooter, I'm going to take offence to that because I might think I'm really good. But if someone said you're a terrible man marker, to me it's like, well, I know I am. I'm a corner forward. I'm not going to be the best man marker. And so speaking of challenges there, I think we'll have our first shooting challenge. Pork, you have home field advantage. What side of the goals you want to shoot from? We're going to go for an end line shot that none of us had ever taken in our lives.
We're going over here. We're going over here. Might go flat with it there. Yeah, she's a peach. Told you to be closer to Clark.
Just come in now.
Didn't come in.
I'm going to, I said I could be beside you here now, fairly quickly.
It's all right.
On your side.
It's all right. Don't have to hang the head in shame there anyway, not too bad. Right. Try and commit to this one a bit better.
Oh!
She was an absolute peach.
Unlucky. That's the closest I think we've had anyone hitting the end line. No one has scored from the end line yet. All right, I'm going to absolutely embarrass myself. I should have done the first shot. I always copy what the person I'm with does for their first shot. I'll go and outside the left and see how...
Absolutely sound. There you go. That's where my first one ended up too. Not too bad. Just have to get the eye in.
Just warming up.
Yeah. Third one's money now.
This is the one now.
Yeah, she's absolutely made for it. A little bit too. Yeah.
Two great attempts though. So you be on the freeze now? Yeah.
Tanya should be on the freeze.
Cornerbacks are the most confident shooters I've ever in my life.
Absolutely. No.
No curl.
No bueno.
No bueno.
Not today.
On my 5 episodes, 0 from 15 I am from the end line so far.
I'm going to take in half a point.
Unfortunately, we have not scored from the end line, but that was a real attempt, you hitting the post there. Do you reckon you're going to check that on now the next day out for Ballina?
I think so, yeah. I think I'm going to go on the freeze now from here.
I don't think anyone
Confidence has been built there over nearly scoring.
I don't think anyone can doubt you after that one.
It's unbelievable.
I think with the mindset, touching on it there now, like I was joking saying cornerbacks always have the best mindset and best, most confidence when it comes to shooting. But in terms of mindset for GAA, kind of keep it specific on this one, what is your approach to kind of dealing with everything that goes on? Like we'll take out the outside noise, but just your own kind of internal mindset.
Enjoyment, really, like, especially when, so for me, full-time work, like most, busy household, lot going on. A lot of the time you go to football, it's not that it's a break, but it's a space where you get to do what you want. Like you know what I mean. You're out playing ball with the lads, exactly where you want to be, doing exactly what you want to be doing. So you're kind of, there's a touch of gratitude in that. And then, to be honest, the best attitude I ever kind of seen was probably Lee Keegan. As you kind of people watch throughout the year, you know, and I think I kind of maybe tried to replicate that to some degree, or just kind of took note of it and said, I think that's the right approach. He was just so laid back, happy, relaxed, just content really would probably be the word. He just seemed to be very happy in whatever space he was in, whether he was going well, whether he was struggling, whether things were going right for us or wrong, whatever. He just, you know, he was always kind of in that space where he seemed to want to be, and he performed really well on the big days, and I think that was a lot to do with it. So not that I ever got to that standard, but certainly was something I try and replicate, would be that kind of contentment of mind nearly.
Oh, they were not a mile off the standard of that anyway. And is that something, do you think, that comes with age, that you kind of let go of the smaller things and kind of bring it back to the enjoyment of why you played it in the first place? Have you found the older you've got, the more relaxed you've got around training and games?
Maybe. I suppose because I had a weird enough, I didn't go in at like 18, 19, 20. Like at that age when you're playing minor 21, I think it's different. But when you go senior, I didn't have to come in as a young lad, really, do you know? So maybe that whole trying to find your place on the team or trying to impress, or didn't really, I came in at like 26, 27, so I didn't, not that I maybe didn't care as much or whatever. I was kind of maybe a bit more comfortable in my own skin and doing my own thing. So I think in that sense I never really had any issues.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you came in at that age, and it was not that you were saying I want to play county my whole life. Had you weren't worried about it, and it kind of happened out of nowhere. And like there might be some young player now, lady or lad, that all they want to do is play for their county, and they're putting this enormous pressure on themselves. And if it doesn't happen by X age of 23, 24, they might be told they're never going to play, and they can become quite disheartened. What kind of tips did you have for a younger player like that to kind of get the enjoyment back and get their reason to why they play in the first place? Because me saying it versus you saying it, I think lads and ladies might listen to you more than me.
Well, I don't know if they will there, and I don't know if I have great advice to give either, because you pave your own way, and I think that's probably the only. I think we assume that the trajectory needs to be the standard model of 16s, minor 21, in at whatever age, and that I think that's the same in life, is like you have to finish your school, college, work, marriage, whatever. There's kind of a line of how it's supposed to be done, and that's not necessarily the case for people. So I think the message for me going out to anybody younger that's involved in any form of sports or whatever, it's just like your own journey is your own journey, and like it'll go whatever direction it goes. You keep kind of putting one foot in front of the other and trying your best. You'll end up wherever you're supposed to end up, and if that's intercounty football, that's intercounty football. If that's ballet, it's ballet. Who knows? Like wherever you end up going, you just follow your passions and end up wherever you do.
I know a big talking point for you is resilience and mental resilience. I know this is kind of a similar answer. You build your own way, and you can't say, oh, this is how you're going to build mental toughness, because everyone has their own ways of dealing with it. And I think, as you said before, unfortunately, you have to kind of suffer the bad to kind of come through the far side and deal with the good and kind of reap the rewards of that. I think sometimes, in this day and age, and not kind of saying, the younger lads and blaming younger generation, but if it doesn't happen straight away, I think a lot of people tend to fall out of love, or I gave it a go and it didn't work, when it comes to the first hurdle. How many hurdles do you think you've come across now in the last 10 years or so that you kind of found, okay, that was tough for this portion of time, but when I came through it, my God, I feel fantastic after it?
I think that's the name of the game. It never stops. Like, you'll always hear even people say like, oh, it's easy for you when you're fit, or it's easy for you that train. It's not. It never gets easy. Like, you don't just get to a standard, or you don't just get fit, or you don't just become good at a sport. You try as hard as you can, and then you get what you think is good, and then you realise you're not good at all, that you need to keep, and it's just constant, daily. Them challenges are there daily, weekly, monthly. They they never stop coming, and like you kind of have to enjoy them to some degree too, because they are what gives you the big lift. You know, it is the struggles and the hard times that kind of give you that. And sport is the only, you know, you said that just a few minutes ago about like you have to go through the hardship, I suppose, to reap the rewards. And in life, it's very hard to develop resilience in a safe space, and like this is it right here. Like sport, be it a team sport or an individual sport, even in particular, you learn to win and lose on your own. You know, you learn how to suffer and struggle. You know how to be good enough one day and not good enough another day. You know, to beat yourself up and pick yourself back up. And I think them, like those experiences, those skills through sport, especially in teen years, I think they give a great base to any young person, you know, going out into this world outside of sport too.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more on that one. And you do a lot of talks to a lot of younger groups and younger teens and that. What is kind of some common themes that you're seeing coming up with that? Just there might be someone listening to this that to let them know, like, I'm not the only person that feels this way. Is there any kind of common things you're seeing?
Yeah, loads. And like I work with a lot of teens, a lot of young people in like completely different circumstances all across the board. You know, what's common? Social skills, definitely, it seems to be a struggle. People engaging with each other, it seems to have changed drastically, even from like the 15, 16 years ago when I was around the beat and around the place. It's very different. Young people are struggling to go to school. There seems to be a lot more kind of anxiety issues around that and social issues. And I don't know the answer to it. I know people will just point and say COVID. I don't really think, I think that's probably an easy out. I think there's a societal change. But that's definitely things that people are struggling with. Getting out of bed in the morning, getting into school. You know, it's school for a lot of young people is really difficult now. There's a lot of things that they're facing. Social media is obviously increasing an awful lot of that, with online bullying and access to information and all of those things. Definitely don't have the answer to them, but I suppose to know collectively that everybody is nearly struggling with it. Myself and yourself included, we're only on about struggling with social media and getting your head around it. Like, we're all trying to find our way in this world, so I think anybody that doesn't know where they're going, don't worry, none of us have a clue where we're going.
Even you said that, I was social anxiety. I went out last weekend, we had two lads in the Masters finals, so we got a bus up to the sport then, we came back, and Carrick and Shannon, the closest town to us. I went out there, and I hadn't been in a late bar nightclub in years. I would have got quite anxious. I was like, so many people around, nothing like no one knew who I was, not saying that, but like just people bumping into you and this big crowd, and I just had to go outside and ended up just going home. The enjoyment had gone out for me, and like I'm 30 and like I'm still worried about going out in a big crowd like that, because I suppose it's a bit, you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know who these people are, you're kind of, I know when there's drink involved, it's very easy to kind of fall into that negative mindset. And you said yourself that drink was something that didn't agree with you, and like that, it's the pressures are there. Like we always say, oh, don't listen to peer pressure, it's all well and good, but when you're 16 and all your mates are down getting something in a field somewhere, it's very easy to be pressured into it. How did you kind of realise that the drink wasn't for you, if you don't mind sharing that?
No, I don't mind it, and I just want to touch on that. You're like, you know, you have the 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Like, sure, we used to go as wild as anybody else at that age too. And I'm not like very conscious of my position on alcohol too. Not saying people can't enjoy themselves. I'm certainly not saying people can't drink. Like, I think it's a great thing that you know, an informed adult can go down to the pub and have a few pints and go and do something social and meet the lads or the ladies and their friends and go off and do something and have it. Like, it can certainly be a positive, and I don't want to ever kind of say it can't, but like predominantly it has negative effects on people, because one, we're just idiots and can't handle ourselves and do the dog on it. That's a big part of it, and it damages lives. You know, it has the capacity to destroy a person's life and their family's life and everything else. And we, you know, in Ireland we've seen so much of that. So I was just very conscious that if you are going out and you're having a few or whatever and you're having a bit of crack, great. And if you can control that, and you know the rest of your life is in order, you're still going to school or you're going to work and your relationship is okay and you're doing all them other things, not getting in the way, well then it doesn't seem to be an issue. But if you find that now you're struggling on a Monday morning, or you're not getting up and you're not doing the things, you're not engaging with your mates, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, the relationship isn't where it's supposed to be because you're off, you know, if them things start to be impacted, then you know you have an issue. And that was really it for me, I suppose. It's like alcohol's taking too much out of my life, like, and I'm losing too much for it. So once you give it up, then all this space opens up to explore other areas of, you know, different kind of training, different people, different connections, and all of a sudden you find yourself doing other things to fill that space.
And a lot more enjoyable things then as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like when I was younger, like even recently enough, like sometimes you use drink as a means to kind of get away from a current problem that you're having, as opposed to facing it straight on, or even if it's having a tough discussion with someone or approaching a subject with someone that you don't maybe want to talk about, and you bottle it all in, and then you know, oh, I'm meeting my buddy in 2 weeks time, so I'm just going to bottle everything until then, I'm going to do the dog on it, as you said, and all of a sudden it all comes out when you least want it to come out, or the next day, more so when you're hungover, you're in bed, you're worried about what you said to Nick or Tom or Jill or Jane, and all these kind of negative things come in, and you're saying, right, that's it, I'm never touching it again, and then it's like by the Wednesday you're back. You're back. Again, like look at like that. There's been other times then where you have a few pints with your mates, and it's the best time you ever have in your life, a nice quiet pub or whatever your vice is, and you have a great time with someone, and someone might open up to you, and that's like, that might be their reason for opening to you to ask you want to go for a pint. And if you're someone who's like, oh well, someone said I should never drink again, I'm not meeting you in the pub, but that might be their tongue loosens a little bit after 2 pints, they might realise, or Gary or Pork, I'm not feeling great myself at the moment. And I think we've all had those discussions with people where they need that kind of that looseness. But like that, there's a lot of other things in this world, and like you're saying, you got big into paddling and rock climbing and hiking. How did that come about, or was that something you're always interested in? I'm
interested in anything that has to do with movement. Do you know what I mean? Anything that's some form of maybe competition, training, sport, anything of that nature, and especially anything that gets adrenaline going. Do you know, that kind of way? So like Ballina is absolutely unbelievable for a small town, so like about 11,000 people, but there isn't a sport that you can't do here. Like there genuinely isn't. You know, everywhere has their Gaelic grounds. We've 2 clubs in the town. We've soccer, rugby club is phenomenal, the soccer club is excellent, but then it's all outside of that. So you can, there's kayaking, there's canoeing, there's tennis, there's badminton. The list goes on. The art centre, we've drama. There's space, I suppose, to explore all of these other areas, like the jiu-jitsu that we talked about earlier, kickboxing, boxing, all of those things. Like, I just think if you have space and time, that's where you kind of want to be spending it. Because it might not be that you go and compete. There's a lot of those things I don't compete in at all, or I'd never get to that level. But it's new and it's exciting, and it's you're at the bottom of the ladder. Like when I'm playing intercounty football all the time, I'm not saying I'm the best, I'm not, but I'm saying if you're at intercounty level, you are kind of the best of the footballer. You're kind of at that level where, of course, you're still learning. There's still stuff to learn, but I mean the basics of the game, the bulk of the game is, you know, is muscle memory at this stage. So you're not really, it's not as exciting as starting out paddling or starting out anything brand new, and all of a sudden you're the worst in the group, and everybody has something to teach you, and you know, you're learning really quick, and like I'd be a bit obsessed with that kind of space. It's exciting and it's new, so I'd always kind of spend a bit of time in that. And as I said, there's loads of like unbelievable people around Ballina that will take you under their wing for a couple of months and show you the ropes, and it's brilliant. Like, that's steady. Like it doesn't all have to be this or a hurling sliotar. Like there's so many different sports in the world. Like in the off season is a great time to explore those avenues. And just speaking on challenges, we're in between 13 and 21 now. I think it's time for our second kicking challenge. So Pork, I will let you set the goal. Where you want to set up? We'll give it a go. Right, let's sort this one out. Don't worry. Start off the left, I suppose. Sorry there. Oh, stop the lights.
We put that down to the big break we took. If we kept going after the last one, we would have split the post.
Oh, it's a bad start.
I'll go outside the left myself and see how bad we get this one now. Oh, fucking hell.
We're not setting much of an example here.
Oh, stop. I said the last episode I should retire my left leg at this stage.
Oh Lord, I missed that one too.
I'm telling you, it's the pressure. It's the pressure of these videos.
Oh, massive pressure.
Playing in Crow Park is nothing about kicking ball at 9 o'clock on what day are we today? Thursday morning in Ballina.
And how many footballs have I kicked into this goal, like, of all places? It's better or short though.
No, we'll strengthen those legs.
Right. I'd actually give the right foot a go too myself.
Wind her up.
Yeah, he's subject to turning up some days and staying at home others. That's better. Oh,
Short.
put her short too.
Oh, okay, I have to put this one dead.
Might have to reshoot this whole scene.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. Back to the start. James, that was bad now.
Oh, I took my eye off it. I was fucking at my technique and I forgot to look at the fucking ball. I've been told a million times in my life, look at the fucking
Leave
ball.
your head down.
Right, the shooting has not been spectacular this morning, Park.
No, it hasn't been great now in fairness, but sure, look, the conditions aren't ideal either. You can see, you know, it's wet out here and huge wind. So
Yeah, it's morning time as well, so
Yeah.
I've all my excuses laid off as well. You're a corner back, look at you, you know yourself. just as we were collecting the balls there, you were saying there's a couple of signs left up from an inclusion event that you ran here last year. How did that go? What was the kind of the purpose behind that?
we did. We ran a inclusion day here in Ballina, like with the support of SuperValue. Thankfully, kind of got in behind it. The Community Includes Everybody campaign that I'd be part of, and it was basically trying to make the club a bit more accessible for everybody and anybody. So there wasn't really a target audience, but like we would have a large number, like most towns in Ireland, of kids with different intellectual and physical disabilities. So it was about maybe trying to provide a space or adaptations that allowed them to come in and enjoy the game. We had a huge influx of Ukrainian migrants in too that were like beginning to kind of engage in the community and stuff, so we made slight adaptations again for those, and we'd have a large number of the travelling community here in Ballina too, who again I would have played football with at a young age, phenomenal young people, but tend to fall out of the club. So I suppose what we're trying to do is kind of get all of those people back into the club and show them that there's a space here for them. As you've seen with maybe some of the signs, so we just changed the language on it. We had a load of volunteers here, and we had levels to each section or workshop, so that it was available. Maybe if somebody had huge capacity in that space or a skill set, they could also, if they struggled in that area, still the two kids could play side by side and get involved. So it was actually a really nice day. It was incredible for the club. We're really proud of it too. So
yeah, I think it's so important that I think there should always be a team for someone to play on. It doesn't have to be intercounty playing for Mayo. It might be whatever level that you're at, a junior B, junior C, or even if there is mothers and others and dads and lads, whatever it is. I think it's so important that there should be an avenue that you can explore. It's like, I'd really like to play GAA, but maybe I'm not able to, or maybe I don't feel comfortable going in with the first team. That there is somewhere that you can kind of, if it is a passion of yours, you should be able to give it a go. And you're massive on that inclusion of everyone. Where did that kind of come from, that you're so passionate about it?
A couple of avenues, I think. So I worked in autism services, which would have kind of changed my mindset significantly, because that was in early 20s and started to see the world maybe a little bit differently. Education then, so I went back and kind of studied in that area too. And then just from like family, friends, stuff, like I'm neurodivergent myself, so is my son. Then like I would have friends, in particular a lad, Carl Bran, I grew up with him, his brother Fergal has Down syndrome, and he was like, he was in my life all the way kind of through my teens, because we'd be in and out of each other's houses, me and Carl, you know, playing basketball and stuff. And his mum and their family are very close to ours, and like even just kind of watching him and being, you know, engaged with different people with different abilities, different disabilities or whatever, you kind of just started to see that like there's a space for everybody, and they're like everybody's so uniquely different and has such skills. It's like, how can we create a space where those areas can be explored, like, because there's some of the most lovely and wonderful people I've met in those areas. So we just kind of try and do a little bit from our side to bridge the gap, so that we can kind of bring everybody together. But like, it's a huge buy-in actually from, it's the groups actually themselves. It's the neurodivergent group, it's the disability services, it's the, you know, it's all of those people coming in together that actually come to the club that make the difference. Yeah,
it's so important that you're using your platform and your status as an intercounty footballer to, not saying no one else is doing it, but you're doing such good work with that, and it is so important. I think something you said on a previous podcast was after, I think it was, you lost against Tyrone, and you know, you obviously are very upset that the game was over, but then your kids are coming on and they're smiling and laughing because they see daddy's on the pitch, and it kind of brings you back to winning, and it isn't the be all and end all. It's about keep making people happy. You do it because you enjoy it, and if you're going into work on a Monday, they probably don't care if you won or lost either. They're happy that you're here to help them in the first place too, and if that is coming down helping out the other 10s at the club, or even if it is you're training inter-county players, that you're doing this because you love it and you want to help as many people as possible. And when you're sharing this on social media then as well, people might be more on board when they see someone that they look up to is doing it as well. I suppose just with that, people looking up to you, how did you find that role in the club developing for you over the years, from a young lad maybe going away for a couple of years to now being one of the more senior players, and probably having younger people that you might even realise, maybe teenagers down to God knows what age, looking up to you and kind of holding you at a high level of regard? How have you kind of, I wouldn't say coped with that, but how have you kind of dealt with that?
Yeah, it is a strange situation. I always find it very weird. Any part, like, you do get a reality check sometimes, you know, and you're going, why does anybody even want to talk or listen to you? It doesn't make sense. But like, I get it. I suppose people see on the pitch, see you do certain things, and then they maybe hold you in higher regard. Like, as I said earlier, everybody's human, right? Make you in any way superhuman, but it definitely forced me to drive my standards up. The obligation nearly to the kids, and it's like, if you've got that many young people looking at you for answers and direction and purpose, then surely you have to kind of demand it out of yourself. So yeah. I think, and I say this with all the community work too, I get a lot of pats on the back for all these. It's not me that does the work, it really isn't. I happen to be the bloody face that people, you know, attribute to the work. It's not me, it's all the other people that work hard in the background. That's where the real work is done. It's not me, you know, and like, you get just as much as you put in, and I really, really mean that. And just kind of what you're saying there, those reasons have made me drive my standards. They've made me try and be a better person in general for them young people. So as much as you're probably benefiting them, they're benefiting you without even noticing it. You know, they are looking up to you, saying, show me something, show me how to behave, show me what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's funny just you're saying there that people looking up to you. Like, obviously I'm not anywhere near an inter-county player like that, but like over the years, just because you kind of have a bit of a presence online, you kind of get people asking you questions, and in the club as well, like that, setting an example. And look, I'll be honest, when I started the page, it was kind of it was a hobby. It was something I was doing in my spare time because I had a broken hand, and I was only showing the highlight reels. You can see here today, my shooting doesn't always go over, but when I started first, I suppose it was a bit of a sense that I was insecure in myself and how well I was playing on the pitch. And I was thinking, if I show this online, people might think I'm better than I am. I get a little bit more respect. But when you kind of, I was getting, like, that wasn't all highlight reels. I was giving workouts and giving tips and pitch sessions and that. And when you realise that this is actually helping someone, I was taking the ego away from it then. It wasn't a case about how great I am kicking shots. It was a case of, here's a good drill. If you were in this position, this can help you. No, I'm not saying I'm going to score every time, but, or if you want to get stronger, here's an exercise. Or if you want to improve this, here's a reason why. And taking away I suppose, my own story of how I'm now talking to Padraig O'Hora in Ballina, that I initially set it as a highlight reel because I was a bit insecure myself. But then when you realise you are helping people and people come to you with, that was a great tip you gave me the last day, the feedback you get from that, it kind of pushes you on to keep wanting to do it. And just you touched on there that you may have some questionable actions on the pitch. I think every good defender kind of plays on the edge. How would was your approach to that? Was that something you're always kind of aware on, playing on the edge? I wouldn't say questionable fouls, but is there a certain element of the game that you find that I have to push it this close to the edge if I want to be beneficial for my team?
I don't know. I think it's just kind of the place you fall into it. You know, you have your shooter, you have your athletic freak, you have, you know, you go around any club setup or any county setup, so you kind of, you know, you can really pick out the characters, like, and you'll always have one or two that just would be like, be given that kind of title of a bit of a dog or whatever. They just commit to ball. That just happened to be the person I was. I think it's just literally a characteristic of who you are. I don't know what the story is it just bet into your DNA? You know, like, I have an 11-year-old son playing football, and I haven't coached him at all, but he plays that way too. Yeah. And that's not from coaching. Do you know what I mean? It just happens to be what kind of, maybe your attitude, or I don't really know. But I was never the most talented anyway. You know, like, I was in younger years I was all right athletically, and skills they were always maybe above par, but I wasn't anything outstanding. And I always felt that it was like work rate. If I worked harder, if I hit harder, like, if I committed to things that other people wouldn't commit to, that's kind of how I'd get along, and that's literally what I've lived off, really. You know, it's never really been, I've never been outstanding in athletics or speed or anything like that, so kind of find your gap, find what you're good at, or find what other people don't like doing, and try and make yourself really good at that. So that's just kind of how it came to be.
Yeah, it's probably not something that you can coach or teach, as you're saying. It's probably something that you kind of have or don't have. But like what you were saying there, I want to do stuff other lads want to do. Is that kind of a target you set, or is that kind of more of a mindset that's like, well, I see that Mick keeps pulling out of that tackle there, and if I do that, I'm going to take his spot? Or was it just a case that I'm just going to do everything I possibly can here that I feel I should be able to do? Or do you have kind of little goals or targets over the years?
The target would always be just try and do more than everybody else. Yeah. Do you know, I was always like, it's like an easy benchmark too, and like Ultimate Hell Week really kind of solidified that ideology, coming from the likes of Ray Goggins. Them guys would kind of be saying the same thing. It'd just be like 100% of your effort all the time, and that's all that's required, nothing less. And like, it's a hard place to find, because especially like say you're playing over 70 minutes of football, you can't sprint for 70 minutes. But do you know what I mean? That's not what you're saying. It's like you do apply yourself, you try, you give 100% to yourself all the time. And look, it's easy to say it standing here. Do I do it all the time? No, rarely. But like, that's what you're trying to do. Do you know what I mean? And on your good days, when you're really at it, you're a lot closer to giving 100% for most of the day. That's when you know you're going well. So that kind of way.
Yeah, I suppose just touching on that, being able to give 100%, a lot of it comes down to your prep, and we've talked about strength and conditioning briefly then as well. What would your week look like leading into a big game? Let's say you got in 2 weeks' time, if it's on a Sunday. Do you kind of think that far ahead in advance, or do you kind of take it day by day, or do you plan your week, what you're going to do up to a game?
No, I don't plan it at all, really. It probably should. Maybe it's more lifestyle that's kind of got in the way. It's like, I would have a lot going on in my mind, and then my lack of capacity to deal with a lot of things at one time. So like, I get very dysregulated, and I'm very good at certain things, but like, it needs to be stepped, and I need to have like structure in it. So I can't worry about something on Sunday because I can't do anything about it, and then I can't be thinking about it because it'll distort what I'm doing now. So like, today I have to meet you, I have to do X at work, I have to do X at home when I get there, and then I don't know what's after maybe 7 bedtime. Yeah. You know, 7, 8 o'clock kids bedtime. That's kind of as far as I'd be going. Yeah. So when it comes to football, no, I don't, because I spend enough time training and involved in it. So when I'm out of it, I like to be out of it altogether. Yeah. Like I eat relatively well anyway, and I sleep well. I try to. So like, you kind of focus on them things anyway. You're just trying to eat well, sleep well, hydrate well. But besides that, I wouldn't say I'm sitting down thinking about it Sunday.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear then as well, because I know some people can become over structured. I was like, I'm doing this, I had like that, I'm meeting me now, and then I'm doing this down at work, but then they have nearly every hour of the day, of every day leading into the game, and by the time the game comes, they're mentally drained and mentally fatigued, and they might have been training, eating, sleeping, everything right, but when it comes to game time, they're nearly mentally burnt out. And it's something I've done in the past, thinking so much about it that you nearly don't want to play then. By the time the game comes around, that you're just, feck this, and talk too much about it.
What got me was, because a lot of lads do that, like, in fairness, they prep like really, really, really well, and like, it's impressive, to be honest. I think Fergal Boland was one of them there this year, like, with his nutrition, whatever. It was just so on point, like the effort and attention to detail, and he was reaping the rewards of it. He was performing really well. So like, there certainly is power in that, I think, as in you can stand over your prep and say, I've eaten at this time this food for this reason. You know, maybe that does work for guys, but what kind of got me was, and we've all done it, we've turned up to a club game, and I've turned up to county games in the same attitude, not bothered. Yeah. Like, as in, didn't sleep well the night before, maybe had a pizza the night before, didn't you know, wasn't supposed to, whatever, didn't have the greatest run into the game, maybe wasn't hydrated, just wasn't right there. And all of a sudden you have one of the best games you've ever played. You feel as fit as you've ever felt, you move as well as you've ever moved, and you're coming off the pitch going, hold on, I didn't get anything right really, prep-wise. So sometimes I think, like, it's certainly where your mind is at, a lot of it. Yeah. But that's not to say don't bloody eat well and sleep well. You should, but I think we've all turned up to games and performed well without the right prep too. Yeah,
like I've been moving house recently, and we had a game, and I had KFC the day of a game, as I just had to get something into me, and then going into the game, I probably had the best first half I ever had in my life. Yeah. And I was actually, a couple of years ago, I was speaking to another great Mayo cornerback, Keith Higgins, and he had a similar mindset. It was kind of not blasé about the whole thing. I was like, yeah, sure, I did the gym and I did training and I played a game. That was kind of, it's funny, you think both of you kind of in these well-renowned cornerbacks that have some magical insight, but it's like, no, I train, I play, I eat well, look after myself, and I do the best I can on the pitch. Yeah.
like it really solidified itself for me at intercounty level anyway, because I remember Brendan Harrison had come back and he was starting the game against Kildare in Carrick, and whatever it was about the game, I just wasn't bothered, and I didn't think I was going to play anyway, and whatever, my attitude definitely wasn't right going into the game. I just wasn't in the form for it or whatever. And then sure enough that evening, the bloody delivery man was actually delivering a takeaway to the neighbours or whatever. Didn't he forget the handbrake and crash into my wall? Right? So I ended up with a bloody 14-inch pizza about an hour later after pulling them out with a rope and a few bits, whatever. The pizza was sitting on the table the night before the game, and sure, I ended up eating it anyway, obviously. And then poor old Brendan suffered a cruciate like 10 minutes into the game. I come on and played for him, and I was not ready, or ended up having one of the best games I ever played. Kicked 2 points, was just moving well, and I remember coming back going, geez, that's wild. Do you know, like the prep was terrible, yet all of a sudden the game got sprung on you and you're actually alright. So yeah, sometimes I think we worry about it way too much. I think we do that with life full stop.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes just been thrown straight in with no prep, you get on. Like now, we'll do it straight away now. We're going to kick a few spin daddies from just outside the 45. Right. We'll see if we can get a little bit better.
Yeah, big talk there about not worrying about things.
That's the one.
That's why.
Black spot. Ah!
Honest to God.
You couldn't write it. Oh, you couldn't write it.
Black spot anyway, I suppose. Something.
I'll give it a go myself.
Oh, there we go. She won't hold it, huh?
Short.
Short.
Goes like an awful lot closer or something.
Probably not being picked up on the camera here, but wind speed coming at us there must be 20, 21 kilometres an hour.
Gale force.
Oh, I missed that one. I've done that again.
Are we going to go the whole day without getting any scores at all?
No, this one's going over. Don't worry about this one. Nice. That's better. She's out the gap.
At least I got one.
Yeah. Can't let you leave that way. Oh no, she's dragged.
One more. I don't have the range inside the foot here.
Oh yeah, inside, right?
Do I? I'll go a seal a yard or two and I'll try an inset.
Nice strike.
Oh, spin two. Let you take one there, you have it in hand.
I should go inside there, yeah, sure. Probably balloon this one there. Not a great day now for the old cornerbacks.
So, as you said, it's the wind and conditions.
The wind and conditions, yeah. It's not great here today now.
So it's just we always do, and in today's episode is in association with Stat Sport. We might have a little race or two, and this is where Pork now is going to show me up about how fast an intercounty cornerback is. Thank Pork to meet me out in Ballina on this beautiful morning, and we're joking about the wind, but it could not be a better morning for this. Just if anyone is interested in any of the charities you're working with or any of the work you're doing, where is the best place to find you?
You get me on social media anyway. Everybody seems to find me there somewhere.
Yeah.
Seems to be stuck in half of everything, but a lot of the work we do, I suppose, would be Mayo Mental Health Association, especially locally anyway, for people in Mayo or in Connacht. We head up the schools programme, do an awful lot of work in that mental health space, so that's Mayo Mental Health Association. And then I suppose charity partners besides that, Laura Lynn down the Children's Hospice down in Dublin obviously do some phenomenal work, so I've been down and I try and do bits and pieces for them. So. Or pick up your own thing too. Like I think the biggest piece would be like get involved with something. You know, some community piece. There's loads out there. There's a load of people looking to proactively try and make their town or their locality a little bit better. So in whatever way you want to do it, I think just get out and get at it.
100%. We'll finish off now.
Well,
a couple of sprints. We're going to start off 20 metres and we'll see how the body's feeling for 45.
Love it.
I might pull a hammer when I'm looking at your heels now running past me here. So Pork, do you want to count down from 3 or do you want to let me count down?
I don't know if it's safe to trust you, but I'll let you go. What are we going? Are we going on 1 or are we going on go?
Going on go, so 3, 2, 1, go.
That sounds about alright there now.
Okay, right.
Hold on a second, let me get ready. You look very serious.
I thought I'm all shy. You've seen me shooting, I'm all shy.
Yeah.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go!
Pace and power! 3, 1, go. Oh.